I never believed in fate, but the night I met her made me question everything. It was raining hard, and I was exhausted after a long day at work. My only thought was to get home, throw myself on the couch, and shut the world out. But then, right at the corner near a dimly lit cafe, I saw her. She stood there, drenched, without an umbrella, clutching a thin scarf around her shoulders. She looked fragile, almost breakable, but what froze me in place were her eyes. They weren't just sad, they were empty, like she had already lost something too big to carry. "Do you need help?" I asked, stepping closer. She lifted her gaze, and I swear, for a moment, my heart forgot to beat. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "I'm fine." "Really?" But I knew she was lying. Something about the way she hugged herself, the way her voice cracked, it told me everything. Without thinking, I handed her my umbrella. She hesitated, then took it with a faint, forced smile. Her name was Emily. She lived not far from that cafe, but she wasn't in a hurry to go home. When I suggested sitting inside for a coffee, she actually agreed. Inside, the cafe smelled of roasted beans and warm pastries. The rain outside hammered against the window, giving us a strange sense of isolation, as if the world beyond the glass didn't exist. She spoke little, but every word carried weight. She avoided details, changed topics quickly, but the silence between her sentences was louder than her voice. And then I noticed it, faint red marks around her wrist. She quickly tried to hide her hand under the table, but it was too late. My chest tightened. "Who did this to you?" I asked, my tone harsher than I intended. Her eyes widened, fear flickering in them. For a second, I thought she'd run. Instead, she lowered her head and whispered, "If I tell you, you have to promise you won't say a word to anyone." At that moment, I knew two things. First, Emily's life was far darker than she let on. And second, whether I liked it or not, I was already part of her story. I leaned back in my chair, staring at her, trying to read the truth in her trembling hands and downcast eyes. The cafe around us was alive with soft chatter and clinking cups, but between us there was only silence, heavy, suffocating silence. "You don't have to tell me," I finally said, softer this time. "But if someone's hurting you, you don't have to go through it alone." Emily gave a bitter smile, the kind that hides more pain than it shows. She stirred her untouched coffee, her spoon clinking against the cup like a ticking clock. Seconds dragged, and then, almost in a whisper, she said, "It's my boyfriend." The word landed like a stone in my stomach. Not because she had a boyfriend, but because of the way she said it, like it was both a confession and a sentence. "He's not always like that," she continued quickly, as if defending him. "He can be sweet. He can be amazing. But when he gets angry—" She stopped, biting her lip so hard it almost drew blood. I clenched my fists under the table, fighting the urge to march out and find him right there and then. "Does he hit you?" I asked bluntly. Her silence was the answer. I exhaled sharply, trying to keep my composure. "Emily, that's not love. That's control. That's... Please!" She cut me off, her voice breaking. "Don't. You don't understand. If he finds out I even talked to someone about this..." Her eyes darted to the window, scanning the street as if expecting him to appear any second. I lowered my voice. "Then why don't you leave?" She let out a hollow laugh. "If it were that simple, don't you think I would have already?" Her words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to argue, to tell her she had to leave, but something about the way her shoulders sagged stopped me. She was trapped, not just by him, but by fear, by years of manipulation, by something I couldn't fully grasp yet. And then, as if fate wanted to prove her point, the door of the cafe opened. A tall man walked in, soaked from the rain, his eyes scanning the room like a predator searching for prey. Emily froze. Her hand gripped her cup so tightly her knuckles turned white. "Is that him?" I asked under my breath. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The man's gaze landed on us, and the smile that spread across his face was anything but friendly. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just a stranger offering a girl a coffee anymore. I was standing between her and the storm she'd been running from. And that storm had just walked through the door. The man's presence sucked the air out of the cafe. His shirt clung to him from the rain, his hair dripping onto the tiled floor, but none of that mattered. It was his eyes that froze me. Cold. Calculating. Possessive. He stopped at our table and placed a hand on the back of Emily's chair, leaning down so close I could smell the sharp scent of his cologne. Emily flinched as if even his shadow hurt her. "Emily," he said slowly, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "What are you doing here?" She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her scarf, trembling. I could see the panic rising in her. "She was caught in the rain," I said, stepping in before she collapsed under the weight of his gaze. "I offered her a coffee." His eyes flicked to me, narrowing slightly. "And you are?" "Just a friend," I replied firmly. The way his jaw tightened told me that word struck a nerve. His hand on Emily's chair tightened, knuckles whitening, before he forced himself to relax again. His fake smile returned, though thinner now, stretched over something dangerous. "Funny," he said, looking back at Emily. "I didn't know you had friends I wasn't aware of." Emily's lips trembled. She whispered, I was just quiet." He cut her off without even raising his voice. The single word made her shrink instantly, as if he had slapped her. Something inside me snapped. "Hey," I said sharply. "You don't talk to her like that." The cafe grew quieter, the background chatter fading. A couple of people glanced our way. His eyes locked onto mine, burning with a fury he was barely containing. "And who the hell are you to tell me how to talk to my girlfriend?" he hissed, his smile gone now. I didn't blink. "A guy who doesn't like watching someone get treated like garbage." Emily tugged at my sleeve under the table, her touch frantic, begging me not to push further. Her eyes pleaded, "Please don't make this worse." But it was too late. He leaned down closer to me, his voice low and venomous. "You think you're helping her? You have no idea what you're getting yourself into." The threat wasn't loud, but it was clear. My pulse hammered in my ears, and for the first time, I realized this wasn't just some jealous boyfriend. There was something darker here. Emily's hand shook as she grabbed her bag, her voice breaking. "Let's just go," she whispered to him. "Please." He straightened up, his eyes still locked on me. The smirk returned, but this time it was pure malice. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders, not tenderly, but like a chain. As they walked out of the cafe, she looked back at me for a split second. Her eyes said everything her lips couldn't. "Don't give up on me." And that was the moment I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. He leaned down closer to Emily, his hand brushing the back of her chair, caging her in without even touching her. "A friend, huh?" he repeated, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Funny, I don't remember you mentioning him." Emily shrank in her seat, her shoulders folding in on themselves. She couldn't even meet his eyes. I felt something boil inside me, anger, protectiveness, maybe both. "Look," I said, keeping my voice steady. "She doesn't owe you an explanation for sitting down to have a cup of coffee. Why don't you calm down?" His head snapped toward me, the fake smile vanishing. For a moment, the entire cafe seemed to fall silent, like everyone was waiting for an explosion. "Calm down," he repeated, his voice lower now, darker. "You don't know a damn thing about us. So here's a little advice: stay out of what isn't yours." Emily's hand reached under the table, lightly tugging at my sleeve, as if begging me not to make things worse. Her touch was trembling, desperate. But I couldn't look away from him. I didn't flinch. "She's not property," I said quietly. "And she sure as hell doesn't belong to you." That was it. The spark that lit the fuse. His smile twisted into something cruel, and he straightened up, his voice loud enough now for nearby tables to hear. "You think you're some kind of hero? You don't even know her. You don't know me." "You're right," I said. "I don't need to. I can see enough right here." The tension snapped. His hand slammed onto the table, rattling the cups. Emily flinched so hard her chair nearly toppled. "Let's go," he barked at her. "Now!" Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked at me instead, her eyes wide, pleading, filled with a silent question I couldn't answer. I wanted to grab her hand, pull her out of there, tell her she didn't have to go with him. But fear pinned her down stronger than any chains. Slowly, like a prisoner walking back into her cell, Emily stood up. "Emily," I started, but she shook her head almost imperceptibly. Her message was clear: don't. Not here. Not now. The man smirked at me one last time before wrapping his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close in a grip that looked more like a threat than affection. And just like that, they walked out into the rain. I sat there frozen, my heart pounding, anger coursing through my veins. Every instinct screamed at me to run after her, to not let her vanish back into whatever hell she lived in. But something stopped me, the realization that if I rushed in blindly, I could make things worse for her. Still, one thing was certain: I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. That night, lying awake in my apartment, her eyes haunted me. The way she silently asked for help, the way she folded into herself when he appeared. I knew I couldn't just let it go. So I made a decision. The next time I saw Emily, and there would be a next time, I wouldn't just sit and watch. And I had no idea that decision was about to drag me into the darkest chapter of my life. I didn't see Emily for 3 days. 3 endless nights of pacing my apartment, replaying every second of that cafe encounter, her silent plea etched into my mind. I kept asking myself, had I already failed her by letting her walk away with him? On the 4th night, I found her. Or maybe she found me. I was leaving work when I noticed someone standing across the street, hidden in the shadows. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then the figure stepped into the glow of the streetlight. It was Emily. She looked worse than before. Dark circles under her eyes, her scarf pulled up to hide fresh bruises on her neck. When she crossed the street toward me, her steps were unsteady, like each one cost her strength she didn't have. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the last word. I didn't hesitate. I led her to my apartment, gave her water, tried to calm her shaking hands. When she finally spoke, the truth spilled out like a broken dam. His name was Ryan. At first, he was charming, caring, everything she thought she wanted, but little by little, he chipped away at her life, isolating her from friends, controlling where she went, who she spoke to. And when words weren't enough, he used his fists. "I tried to leave," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But he always finds me. He says if I ever run for good, he'll kill me." Hearing that chilled me to my core. But beneath the fear in her voice, I also heard something else: desperation, and a faint spark of hope. "Emily," I said firmly, "you're not alone anymore. We'll get you out. We'll go to the police, No!" She cut me off, panic in her eyes. "You don't understand. He has people. Connections. If I go to the police, he'll know before I finish filing the report." Her words sank like stones in my chest. She was right. Some men like him always had ways of slipping through cracks. But I couldn't let that stop me. I looked at her, really looked at her, the bruises, the brokenness, and beneath all that, the courage it took to even show up at my door. You came to me for a reason, I said quietly. And I promise you this, I won't let him touch you again. For the first time since I met her, she allowed herself to cry freely. She collapsed against me, and I held her, swearing silently that I'd keep my word no matter what it cost. But as the night dragged on, and the rain began again outside my window, I couldn't shake the feeling that Ryan wouldn't just let her go. I knew he would come looking. And when he did, I had to be ready, because this wasn't just Emily's fight anymore. It was mine too.